grow. Going to find something great to talk about.
Hello and welcome to part 5 of my 30-day piece to video that I've been doing All right, come on. We got this. Hi, I'm Brad James and welcome to Pirate Think. Stick with me as we unpack resilience in the face of uncertainty and learning to travel through uncharted waters. Throughout the course of my life, I have started, founded, run a number of businesses across a few different sectors. From my early days, I don't think entrepreneurship was really a thing, or it definitely wasn't a word that was spouted around as much as it has today. But I remember from a young age, and not too young, but a young age in the working career after I'd finished my trade, it wasn't long after that I'd jumped around a few different jobs and then eventually started out contracting by myself, what we in Australia call a sole contractor. Now, I learned and had fun with learning how to set up the structures of business and the difference between a sole trader and a proprietary limited, and continued to grow through the years in understanding the business makeup, or challenged myself to jump onto just weird and bizarre contracts or certain type of projects that I knew were just outside of my comfort zone, but with a steep enough learning curve, I knew I could just pick up what I needed to pick up and run with it. Now, this approach really served me well throughout my life, but there is definitely something to say about finding that growth pattern and period on a longer form trajectory, working for some big company and then slowly making your way through the ranks. And a good example of that in our country for sure is the public service. As in Australia, we probably don't have as many large corporations where growth is accessible to that manner, but definitely the public service, where we are staying in that and moving through the ranks, is such a great way to position yourself with some great stability. But I think what it was lacking for me is the creativity, the color, the flair, the risk, the drive, the master of your own destiny, or whatever you want to call it, that I felt was always within me. And before I really realized that I was entrepreneurial in the sense that I like to give things a go, I like to build teams, I liked the sales and marketing aspect, and I understood it. But more than that, I really think I wanted to craft something with my own hands. And many years later, I'm now sitting as CEO and director of a great company that I founded, sharing the day-to-day struggles with a great business partner of mine, Steve. And I think what got me to that place is an underlying constant of knowing that if I just keep going and if I just keep learning, even if I don't necessarily see around the next corner or I'm in uncharted waters, that I would knew based on my past experiences the best place to pivot and the best place to point the sails of the ship. I remember going through a number of really hard times and large sums of money on projects, on dodgy deals, on people that weren't true to their word, on companies that have gone bust. Back in the day, I used to really feel the anguish of it and the emotional pain of it. And throughout my growth period in those things, I feel it really taught me a resilience in not letting this external stuff affect my emotional internal world. And although there was these external parameters that might have challenged me to act out or be angry or make a silly decision because I wasn't thinking straight, through those processes and through me learning, I was able to compose myself. I was able to go back and think about not the part that's hurting my business, but look at the potential and the possibilities and stay focused on the direction I'm headed, not focused on the direction that has tried to derail me. And so I think there's two parts to that. Part one is the real need to not be swayed by the failures. And I said it in another podcast, but I think it's so fitting that some of these achievements in our life actually can't be reached unless you're willing to pay the price of the failures and the losses and the hurts and the devastation, and actually be able to work through them properly and healthily. That will actually get you out the other side. I say to a lot of people that my current business success in what I am doing, I believe is directly related to the level of self-growth and capacity that I've continued to build in myself. And if I always place myself as the weakest link, it might not be that every time. But if I choose to place myself consistently as the weakest link in my family, in my business, in my life, it calls me to continue to grow. It calls me to continue to challenge. And then when a offsider or a client or a family member or something also challenges me, I also don't take that emotionally and start attacking out and how dare they and they have no right to. And it's more received, unpacked, and then dealt with in a logical or best way possible. And I feel in doing that, in choosing to go to, this really sucks right now that this has happened, but I know if I just push through, I'll get to here, or if I make this step, I might do that, or an opportunity might arise. And if I'm in this mindset of like, oh, everything's shit and everything's hard, and I'm just consumed by all these worries, and then this opportunity comes, all of a sudden I'm already feeling overwhelmed and that I can't work and that it's hard for me to continue. And so this, our new awesome opportunity, is seen through the filter of that space. Whereas if the same scenario is happening, but I find a place of calm, I find a place of peace, I find a place of not letting it affect my emotional world, but think about it strategically. And instead of wasting all my thought in my mind about and whinging to people about this is hard and that sucks and it must be so easy for them and all these things that we conjure up to justify why we are in. Freaking battery died on the camera. Day 5, mate, and the technical glitches are real. If you haven't seen one of my other videos, you will understand what I am talking about. But damn, I just got to get on top of these freaking batteries, and I get on top of just getting these done. But yeah, if I face that same scenario, the bad scenario that's happening in my life, if I choose to go to peace and I choose not to worry about it, instead of wasting all of my time verbalizing and rattling around all of how hard it is for me and how bad it is and all of this wasted mindset on running around in circles, if I actually sat at a place of peace in myself and looked at the situation for what it was, then instead of using my brain power and my headspace and my capacity to worry about things, I am now using that same time and capacity in space to actually work out how to strategically change what I'm currently in the middle of. Now, how can you possibly have any capacity to work out how to get out of this situation when all you're focused on is how bad the situation is? Of course you feel overwhelmed. Of course you feel depressed. Of course you feel hopeless. It's like we recycle these things over and over, and I have groups of people in my world is the best way to explain it without exposing anyone. I have groups of people in my world, and I remember catching up with a particular group at a particular time. And as I sat back, it had been a while, a good number of years, 10 years maybe. And as I sat back watching this display in my eyes of a time that once was, these people are still living it every day. The same stories, the same concerns about how bad the world is and how hard this is and how that person's so dumb and wrong and yet I'm so awesome. But when I look at the caliber of life that they are living these small-minded, bad situations, and I'm not hating on them for that, but I'm recognizing how blind they are to their own circumstances. And I know that because I've been there myself during different times in my life, where I'm just a whinge saying how hard things are and how depressed I am and how bad it has been. But the reality is we can go through those same circumstances, we can go through those same situations in our life. And my new philosophy that I work on and I challenge myself on daily is, if you have to go through this current situation right now, whatever is happening in your world, if you have to go through this right now, you 100% have the choice to either go through that sad or to go through that happy, to go through it fearful or to go through it with courage and strength. You have that choice. And yes, our minds are bombarded with all this stuff, but it's still our choice at the end of the day. And I just feel for me and the direction that I want to take my life, if I have to go through this today and I have to go through this moment in my life, well, I am going to choose to go through this with the most clearest mind, with the most open mind, so that I have capacity to navigate, so I have capacity to make an informed decision, not clouded by my own emotional fear, but a decision based on strategy for that particular thing. Feel like I got like fired up in that one, a little bit fired up. And I probably am a little bit fired up. Business is going really well. And if you stayed this long, you get a little personal anecdote, because I feel I have pushed past 10 minutes. So this is just a little bit of extra bonus material for the hardcore people, which as of today is still 0. And you know what? I actually like that, because as I still look at that camera, I still just think this is awesome. And I'm just talking to myself, for myself. And when I watch these back and I edit them, it's amazing. I'm just like, the guy definitely dribbles shit. Post. Anyway, so yeah, we've been through an interesting, probably, it's almost 12 months now since it really started. We had a really tough period at the back end of last year, from basically August, I want to say, till Christmas in the business. We had made some pretty big changes at the start of the year, and brought on another director, and changed staff, and changed a few service items, and just the way we were structuring the business. And it was all looking really good until we could drop this big project. And I was so encouraged at the time in the resilience of the team, and we all pivoted and made it through the back end of last year. And we just started this year off kicking a massive goal and winning another big project. But we really had a good 6 months of hard times behind us. Now, in the past, I think even 1 week worth of hard time would have absolutely shattered my world. But to go through 6 months and reflect on that time, my capacity growth, my resilience to standing the line and being confident in what I know and what I've built and the direction we're heading and stuff like that, was a complete game changer. And it really meant that we could almost go for 6 months of really getting kicked down hard, really hurting it a lot of times. And don't get me wrong, it had its high moments of stress and uncertainty and worry and fear. But as soon as those things crept in, I would snap the emotion off them and really focus on the strategic planning on how I can better this circumstance and how I can better this situation. Not resting on it's almost like the desperate plea of like, if I can get this person to feel sorry for me, then that justifies it, but it doesn't change the circumstance. We're not looking for justification. And once again, like I said, if I always bring it back to myself, and that it's something in me, that everything, work problems, my fault, home problems, my fault, life problems, my fault. If I keep bringing that back to me, then all of a sudden I am the curator, I am the weakest link, and so are the challenges for me to continue to grow. And I think it's that mindset that pushed through a really hard 6 months. And we're in May now. This is May, whatever. I don't even know what we are, 13th, 14th, something like that. 15th. There we go. Week is flying. We've done a good 5 months now of this year, and we've just kicked some incredible goals, and we've clawed back from that hard 6 months, and we have a really great future and a really great pipeline of work into the back half of this year. And I just think it was that resilience. It was that resilience in the face of uncertainty that really held us and drove us through. And so I encourage you, if you have something that you're working on, or just like this, I'm like 5 videos in, and I feel last night was a really hard video to kind of get out, and I'm not sure why it was hard, but it just felt like really heavy and a drag. I felt unmotivated. I felt unqualified. I felt unprofessional. I felt like a basic bitch. I just felt all of these things, and they were all reasons that I could have whinged and complained about, and a reason why I shouldn't have done the video last night. And you know what? I'm so proud of myself for pushing through that. But I also want to get to the stage where that no longer even becomes a worry or becomes a concern in my mind. And I think, once again, one of my previous videos, I said, that's the persistence thing. That's the continued motion of making small, progressive steps forward in the right direction. Anyway, I hope this all turned out okay. And yeah, I feel great. And we had a really big breakthrough and win today. And I hope you have a really big breakthrough and win in the near future. And I just want to premise all of this that really this podcast and Pirate Think for me is, as it continues to evolve and as I continue to pivot and change and set new courses and set new expectations and new targets and new places to go, once I get this 30 days kind of done and dusted, I'm really keen to just settle into some good, wholesome conversation with people. I think this really just sets the premise of who I am and my heart and what I'm aiming for and what I'm doing, and just allows me and allows you to get a better sense of the heart behind Pirate Think and myself. So really appreciate you listening or watching another night down. Let's power through it. Exciting thing, I've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I've got 6 more days, and then I am bringing these videos to Port Douglas with me, where I'm going on an amazing break with my family. I'm switching off from work, but I'm still going to power through a 10-minute video. And I'm really excited to let that challenge me to how do I have these conversations to the camera with potentially people walking around and in some really cool, beautiful locations up in Port Douglas. So that is it. It's been a long one tonight, but I appreciate ya. Let's get it. Pirate Think.